The wrong jumped the ship. Aurora's Edge was never meant to travel this far. It was an old human freighter, patched together by cheap welds, spare parts, and the stubborn pride of its crew. Its captain, Daniel Reeve, an ex-soldier turned cargo hauler, had flown it through asteroid storms and pirate ambushes. But this time, it wasn't pirates or rocks waiting for them. It was something far larger. The jump drive malfunctioned during a routine cargo run to the mining colony on Callisto. One moment, they were watching the blue glow of hyperspace flicker outside the hull. The next, alarms screamed, lights died, and the ship was torn sideways through a tunnel of burning white fire. The Aurora's Edge spat out into an unfamiliar star system, its crew bruised, shaken, and half-panicked. Reeve pushed himself up from the deck, his head bleeding from a cut. "Status," he barked, voice hoarse. The ship's engineer, Tasha Kwan, slammed her hand against a control panel that refused to stop sparking. "Navigation's fried. We overshot the jump lanes, way overshot. I don't even recognize this star map." The ship's medic, Luis Ortega, pale but steady, scanned the screens. "We're not in charted human space." Silence filled the cabin, and then movement. A shadow crossed their viewport. Reeve froze. Out there, drifting in the black, was not a rock, not a derelict, not a pirate vessel. It was a ship unlike anything they had ever seen. It was massive, city-sized, silver hull glimmering with living patterns of light. Thousands of windows lined its surface like stars trapped in metal. It looked less like a machine and more like a floating cathedral, alien and eternal. What the hell is that?" Ortega whispered. The alien ship moved with perfect silence. Then dozens of smaller craft peeled off its sides, sleek and sharp, surrounding the Aurora's Edge like wolves circling a wounded deer. Kwan cursed under her breath. "We've just stumbled into something big." The comms lit up with a voice none of them understood. The sound was melodic, layered, more music than speech. Reeve felt a shiver crawl down his spine. "Translate it," he ordered. Kwan's translation software stuttered, and finally cracked the signal. The alien words, when stripped of their music, sounded cold. "Unknown vessel. You have trespassed into the territory of the Arcanian Empire. Power down all systems. Submit for inspection." Reeve leaned back, stunned. "Empire?" Kwan gave him a grim look. "Dan, I think we just jumped into the middle of a galactic civilization." The alien ships grew closer, their weapons humming with restrained power. The humans' little freighter groaned in their shadow, fragile and outclassed. Reeve clenched his jaw. He had been through war. He had seen death close up. But this was bigger than anything humanity had ever dreamed. And yet, something in him refused to bow. He looked out at the glittering alien empire surrounding his battered human freighter and muttered, "Well, they'll just have to deal with us." The Aurora's Edge powered down. Alien docking beams seized them. The humans were pulled toward the heart of the Empire. None of them knew if they'd ever return. Asterisk. The court of glass, the docking bay, was a cathedral of light and glass. Thousands of alien eyes watched as the small human crew was marched down a ramp by armored guards. The Arcanians were tall, their skin shimmering with crystalline patterns that shifted with their moods. Their movements were fluid, almost too graceful, as though they had been bred for elegance. The humans looked crude in comparison, scarred, dirty, their patched uniforms torn from the rough jump. Whispers echoed through the alien crowd. Reeve felt the stairs digging into him like knives. At the end of the hall sat the Imperial Tribunal, 3 figures seated upon floating thrones of crystal. Their voices merged as one, their words echoing like bells. "Strangers, you stand before the Empire. State your origin." State your purpose. Reeve swallowed hard. Then he spoke simply. We are from Earth, a world beyond your charts. We didn't mean to come here. Our jump drive misfired. We just want to go home. A ripple of alien laughter filled the chamber. The sound was cruel, mocking. The central judge leaned forward, eyes glowing. There are no worlds beyond the Empire. All that exists within our reach. You lie. Reeve's hands curled into fists. We're not lying. Humanity doesn't answer to you. We've built our own way, without your empire. Gasps filled the chamber. Guard hissed something sharp and angry. Ortega whispered nervously. Dan, maybe tone it down. But it was too late. The tribunal's eyes flared. Arrogant primitives. You dare stand unimpressed before the eternal throne? Perhaps you must be broken before you understand. The guards raised their weapons. But then another voice rang out. Wait. From the side of the hall, a younger Arcanian stepped forward. His crystalline patterns glowed a softer hue, less rigid than the others. He bowed slightly. My lords, if they speak truth, then they are something the Empire has never faced. Perhaps we should listen. The tribunal scowled, but paused. Young alien turned to the humans, and in surprisingly soft tones asked, Show us proof of your origin. Show us what makes you human. Reeve's mind raced. He looked to Quan. She hesitated, then pulled a small device from her Paca battered datapad filled with images. Videos and songs from Earth. She activated it. The air filled with the sound of music and old human melody, raw and beautiful. Images of Earth's oceans, forests, cities, and children played across the projection. The alien crowd went silent. For a moment, even the tribunal seemed unsure that the young Arcanian's crystalline skin shimmered with wonder. You come from outside. But the tribunal's voice returned, hard and cold. If that is true, then humanity is a threat. Guards stepped forward again. Reeve's heart pounded. This wasn't diplomacy anymore. This was survival. Asterisk prisoners. Of glass, the cell was made of light. Not stone, not steel. Just light. A shimmering cube of translucent force, humming faintly, trapping the humans inside like insects in amber. Reeve tested the barrier with his palm. It stung his skin, pushing him back with a sharp static crack. No way through. Cage of fireflies, Ortega muttered, rubbing his sore shoulder. Charming hospitality. Quan was on the floor, half disassembling her boot. She had already stripped out a coil of wire and a metal clasp. She hated waiting. Give me a day, maybe two. I'll crack it. Reeve gave her a sharp look. There. Not giving us 2 days. You heard the tribunal. Execution. Public. Broadcast across the Empire. The words replayed in his head like gunfire. He paced the tiny cell, mind racing. They'd fought wars against impossible odds before, but those wars had been human against human. This was different. This was a galaxy-old empire, an enemy with fleets that could blot out suns, and yet part of him still burned with defiance. Across the hall, another light cell flickered. Inside it stood Kalen, the young Arcanian who had spoken for them. He looked smaller now, stripped of his ceremonial robes, his crystalline skin dulled to a pale gray. His eyes lingered on the humans with something halfway between shame and curiosity. Reeve met his gaze. Why did you stop them? Back in the court, Kalen hesitated. Then he spoke softly, his voice carrying strangely through the shimmering walls. Because the Empire has forgotten wonder. It has forgotten that the stars are meant to be discovered, not caged. You reminded me. Quan snorted, not looking up from her tinkering. Yeah, well, your people didn't seem too impressed. Kellen's crystalline patterns flickered dimly. The Empire does not forgive defiance. You should not have spoken as you did. Reeves' jaw tightened. I'm not here to impress them. I'm here to get my crew home. Silence stretched between. Then Kalen leaned closer to the barrier, voice dropping to a whisper. They will kill you tomorrow. The tribunal has decreed it, but there may be a way out. Ortega looked up sharply. And why would you help us? You're one of them. Kellen's gaze wavered. Because I am not blind. Your species is raw, unpolished. But in your defiance, I saw something we have lost. I cannot explain it. I only know I cannot let it be extinguished. Reeves studied him carefully. The alien's voice trembled, but there was truth in it. He had seen the look before in soldiers who wanted to believe in something bigger than orders. Talk, Reeves said finally. Kalen glanced toward the guards. They stood still, faceless helmets reflecting the light, weapons humming faintly. He lowered his voice further. There is a flaw. These cells. They draw from a central nexus. Overload one, and the whole block flickers. Briefly, long enough to move. Kwan's eyes lit up. Now that's something I can work with. She held up the wire she'd been pulling from her boot. Might just need to poke the right nerve. Reeves' heart quickened. It wasn't much, but it was hope. Asterisk, that night, if one could call it night, in a prison of eternal light, Kwan got to work. She twisted wire, scraped sparks, pressed her ear to the hum of the barrier, like a mechanic listening to an engine's heartbeat. Sweat rolled down her face. Ortega whispered, "This is insane. We don't even know where we'd run." Reeve whispered, "Back anywhere's better than a public execution." Finally, Kwan pressed the wire into a hairline crack of the barrier emitter. A spark leapt. The light shivered, faltered then, for a split second, died. The cell opened. "Move!" Reeve barked. They burst free, hearts pounding. Guards turned, weapons rising, but Kalen shouted something in the alien tongue. His skin flared brilliant, confusing them. For a moment, they hesitated, unsure if he was issuing orders. Reeve didn't waste it. He slammed his fist into the first guard's throat joint. The alien crumpled. Ortega grabbed the fallen weapon and fired. A blast of white energy ripped across the hall. Chaos erupted. Kwan darted to Kellen's cell, jamming her wire into the emitter. Sparks flew. The light collapsed, and Kalen stumbled free. "You're mad," Kalen gasped, but there was a flicker of awe in his eyes. "Get used to it," Reeve growled. He tossed the alien a weapon. "You're with us now." They sprinted through the prison corridors, alarms howling like angry beasts. Sirens bathed the walls in crimson light. The Empire was awake now. But for the first time since they'd arrived, the humans weren't waiting to die. They were fighting to live. Asterisk. The breakout the alarms never stopped. Red light pulsed down the Diao. Prison corridors, bathing everything in blood. Sirens wailed, echoing through crystal halls. The floor itself vibrated with the sound of alien machinery locking down. Doc Reeve ran at the front, weapon clutched in his hands, boots pounding against the smooth glass-like floor. Ortega covered their rear, firing bursts at any guard who came. Too close. Kwan stayed in the middle, carrying the improvised toolkit that had saved them. Kalen ran beside them, his crystalline skin flickering erratically, fear and determination battling inside him. "This way," Kalen shouted, pointing toward a sloping ramp that curved downward. "The hangars are beneath the tribunal halls." Reeve gritted his teeth. "And how many guards between us and there?" Kalen didn't answer. His silence was enough. The ramp opened into a wide hall lined with crystalline pillars. Dozens of armored Arcanians appeared at the far end, weapons drawn. "Down!" Reeve barked. Ortega dove to one knee and fired. The alien rifle spat white bolts of plasma. Several guards staggered. crystalline skin cracking under the force. But more poured in, advancing in perfect formation. "They're trained soldiers," Ortega yelled. "We can't hold them here." Reeve scanned the hall. Too wide, no cover, except Quan, he snapped. "Can you bring the roof down?" Quan blinked at him, then at the glowing power conduits running through the pillars. Her lips curled into a feral grin. "Give me 30 seconds. She sprinted to the nearest pillar, pulling wire and scraps from her pouch. Sparks flew as she jammed the metal into the conduit. "Cover her," Reeve ordered. He and Ortega fired. In bursts, forcing the Arcanians to duck. Kalen hesitated, then raised his own weapon and fired awkwardly. His shot missed, scorching the wall, but it brought a moment of confusion. "Now!" Quan shouted. She ripped the wire free. The pillar exploded in a shower of sparks. The power surged through the floor, arcing across conduits. With a scream of rending glass, the ceiling above the alien soldiers collapsed. Shards the size of cars rained down, crushing half the formation. The survivors fell back, regrouping. "Move!" Reeve barked. They sprinted past the smoking wreckage, boots crunching on broken crystal. Quan was laughing breathlessly, wild-eyed. "Still think duct tape and wire can't beat your empire, Shiny?" She shouted at Kalen. Kellen's patterns flickered in astonishment. "You used chaos as a weapon." Reeve grunted. "It's called improvisation. Get used to it." They burst into a transport corridor. Sleek hover vehicles lined the walls, designed for guards to move prisoners. Quickly, Reeve pointed. In, they piled into one. Kalen leapt to the front, slamming his hands onto the control panel. The vehicle hummed to life. "I can drive," Kalen said, his voice tense. "Then drive fast." Reeve said. The transport shot forward, gliding silently above the crystalline floor. Behind them, more alarms howled. Through the corridors they sped, taking sharp turns, dodging security drones that fired from the ceilings. Ortega blasted them out of the air, sparks raining onto the vehicle. "Hangars close!" Kalen shouted. The tunnel widened and then split open into a vast chamber that stole their breath. The hangar stretched like a canyon of light. Alien ships, sleek and silver, rested on glowing platforms. Hundreds of guards swarmed like ants, weapons drawn, scrambling to block the humans' path. Too many. Ortega shouted. Reeves scanned the rows of ships, searching desperately. He spotted one smaller craft, sleek but not enormous, unguarded for the moment. Something they might actually fly. "There," he pointed. "Kalen, get us close." Kalen swerved hard. The transport screamed across the hangar floor. Guards raised weapons, but the humans fired wildly, scattering them. Plasma bolts scorched the walls. The transport screeched to a halt beside the ship. Reeve jumped out first, blasting 2 guards before they could reach them. Ortega and Quan followed, covering the flanks. "Move, move." Reeve shouted. Kalen slapped his hand against a glowing panel on the ship's hull. A ramp hissed open. They scrambled inside. The cockpit was alien, all curves and glowing glyphs. Kalen slid into the pilot's seat, hands moving fast. "I can fly it." "But the hangar shields." "Just get us off the ground," Reeve snapped. The ship roared to life. Engines pulsed. The hangar trembled with power. Shields rising. Kalen warned. Reeve saw it, a shimmering wall of light beginning to seal the hangar doors. "Quan," he barked. "I see it," she shouted, tearing open a panel beside the cockpit. She jammed her wire into the alien circuits, sparks flying. The engines screamed louder, surging with more power than the ship was meant to handle. "Go!" she yelled. Kalen slammed the throttle. The ship shot forward like a spear, racing toward the narrowing gap. Plasma bolts filled the air, guards firing desperately. Ortega returned fire from the side port, shouting curses in Spanish. The hangar door shrank, the shield closing like a glowing blade. Reeve held his breath. With a deafening roar, the ship burst through the gap just before it sealed. The shields crackled against the hull, leaving glowing scars, but they were free dot stars exploded around them. The black ocean of space opened wide. For a heartbeat, there was silence. Then Kellen's voice, tight with fear. The fleet will already be moving. As if summoned by his words, the void lit up. Dozens no, hundreds of alien warships appeared, their silver hulls gleaming like knives. They shifted into formation, surrounding the escapees. Ortega swore violently. They were waiting for us. Kellen's crystalline patterns flickered pale. The Empire hunts with precision. There is no escape. Reeve's eyes hardened. He gripped Kellen's shoulder. There's always a way. Show me their weaknesses. Kellen hesitated. Then, quietly, they do not expect unpredictability. They do not know how to fight humans. Reeve's lips curled into a grim smile. Then let's teach them. The alien fleet closed in. The breakout wasn't over. It was just beginning. War machines, the alien ships closed in like a tightening noose. Silver hulls gleamed against the stars. Each vessel shaped like a spearhead, precise and identical. They moved in perfect unison, a deadly ballet of light and order. Engines pulsed in synchronized rhythm. Weapons lit up, thousands of points of white fire ready to strike. Inside the stolen craft, Reeve's crew held their breath. Ortega muttered, "We're a tin can with stolen paint. They're a wall of death. How do we fight that?" Kellen's crystalline skin glowed faintly, nervous patterns flickering. "You don't. The fleet's doctrine is absolute. Their formations are flawless. Against this, there is no survival." Reeve's jaw tightened. "That's what you've been taught. Doesn't make it true." Quan slammed her palm against a flickering panel. "Dan, half the ship's systems don't even speak the same language as me. If they hit us once, we're space dust. Then, they don't hit us," Reeve said flatly. Kellen turned to him, almost angry. "You cannot evade them forever. They will anticipate every move." Reeve gave a humorless smile. "That's the problem. You all think like machines. Humans don't. We improvise." The first volley came. Lances of white energy carved across the void. The stolen ship shook violently as Kellen yanked the controls, pulling into a dive. The blasts missed by meters, flaring bright against the emptiness. "Evasive." Reeve barked. Kellen threw the ship into a wild spiral. The humans were slammed against their seats, their ribs aching under the sudden pressure. "Are you insane?" Kellen cried over the alarms. "Probably," Reeve shouted back. "Keep it unpredictable. No patterns." Alien ships swarmed, their formation bending to cut them off. Dozens of sleek fighters streaked ahead, moving in flawless arcs. They tightened the net, leaving only a narrow corridor open. Kellen gasped. "They're funneling us straight into the battleships." Reeve leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Good. That means they think they're in control." He turned to Quan. "How bad's the engine?" "Held together by spit and fury." "Why?" "Because I want maximum thrust right now." She swore under her breath, but jammed her wire deeper into the circuit. Sparks spat out. The engines roared, pushing the ship forward with a violent surge. Kellen cried out as the ship leapt into the funnel at impossible speed. Fighters scrambled to adjust, but their perfect arcs became a weakness. They overcorrected, colliding with each other in bright blossoms of fire. Ortega whooped. "We just made them crash themselves." Reeve grinned. "Told you. Predictable." But the grin faded as they shot out of the funnel strait into the shadow of a massive warship. It was colossal, 10 times the size of a human battleship. Its hull was covered in glowing veins, pulsing like a living heart. Dozens of gun ports opened, glowing with deadly light. Kellen's voice trembled. That is a dreadnought of order, a war machine older than your species. No vessel has ever survived its wrath. Reeves' crew went silent. Then Reeves spoke, low and steady. There's a first time for everything. The dreadnought fired. Beams of searing light lanced through space, cutting across stars. Kalen yanked the controls, swerving hard. The stolen ship bucked and groaned, hull plating boiling under the near misses. Quan shouted, "Shields are frying. We can't take another hit." Reeves scanned the dreadnought, eyes narrowing. Its hull was seamless, perfect except... There. He muttered. "What?" Ortega snapped. "See that vent cluster? Just above their portside arrays? That's exhaust. Doesn't matter how advanced you are, heat has to go somewhere." Kellen's eyes widened. No one would dare approach a dreadnought that close. Reeves' smile was sharp. "Lucky for us, we're not from around here. Kalen, bring us in low. Skim the hull." Kalen hesitated only a heartbeat, then obeyed. The stolen ship dived, engines screaming, racing along the dreadnoughts. Silver surface so close the humans could see seams and glowing veins. Alarms blared as turrets tried to track them, but the dreadnought's own size betrayed it. Its guns couldn't angle low enough. They streaked toward the vent cluster. "Ortega, when we pass that vent, dump everything we've got." "You mean the one working cannon?" "Everything." The ship roared over the glowing vents. Ortega pulled the trigger. A lance of plasma shot downward, punching into the exposed heat port. The effect was instant. The dreadnought shuddered violently, its glowing veins flickering. A deep explosion rippled across its hull, venting fire and gas into space. The massive war machine staggered. Its weapons faltered. The fleet froze in shock. Kalen whispered, "You damaged a dreadnought with a single strike." Reeves' voice was grim. "We exploited their weakness. Nothing's invincible." But then the dreadnought's glow intensified again. Systems rerouted. The wounds closed, and its central eye, an enormous glowing sphere at its heart, turned toward them. Ka-Elen went pale. "They're activating the Judgment Core. It will destroy not just us, but any world they target." Reeves' stomach dropped. And now it knows about Earth. The humans stared at him in silence. The dreadnought's eye pulsed. Across the comms, a voice echoed, cold and absolute, primitive. "Humans, you will serve as an example. We shall erase your world." The stars themselves seemed to tremble. The hunt was over. The extermination had begun. Asterisk the choice, the ship shook like a dying beast. The dreadnought's massive eye glowed brighter, charging with a power that seemed to tear at the very fabric of space. The humans could feel it in their bones, like the vibration of thunder before a storm. Kellen's voice was hoarse with terror. "Once the Judgment Core completes its charge, nothing can stop it. A single strike could turn your Earth to glass." Reeves' gut twisted. Earth his home, his people under. Threat from a machine the size of a continent. He had fought in wars, seen cities burn, but the thought of billions wiped out in an instant made his fists clench until the knuckles went white. "We can't outrun it," Ortega said, his face pale. "We can't outgun it." "So what do we do?" "Don?" Reeves' mind raced. His instincts screamed retreat, but retreat meant Earth's destruction. He glanced at Kalen. The alien's crystalline patterns flickered with guilt and shame. "Tell me," Reeves said, his voice sharp. "That thing who commands it." Kalen swallowed hard. "The tribunal themselves." They control the judgment core through the Nexus. Mind, it obeys only the will of the Empire. Reeve leaned closer. Then we don't fight the ship. We cut off its brain. Kellen's eyes widened. You mean infiltrate a dreadnought? That's madness. Reeve's lips curved into a grim smile. Madness is what humans do best. Before Kalen could reply, the comms flared alive. A voice echoed across the stolen shipground, commanding, amplified across space. Hear us, subjects of the Empire. These humans are liars. They are dangerous beasts who defy order. They claim a world outside the Empire, a world of chaos. But chaos must be burned away. Witness now their punishment. The transmission spread like fire. Every ship, every planet within range would see this moment. The tribunal was turning humanity into a spectacle, a warning. Ortega slammed his fist against the console. They're broadcasting our deaths. Reeves' jaw tightened. His voice was low, steady, dangerous. Then let's make it a story they'll never forget. He turned to Quan. What can we do with the engines? Quan was already elbow-deep in sparking circuits. Her face was streaked with soot, her hands blistered, but her eyes were alight. If I reroute the overload and dump it into the thrusters, we might get one shot at ramming speed. Good, Reeve said. Get us inside. Kalen stared, him in shock. Inside the dreadnought? You wouldn't survive. Reeve met his eyes. We don't need to survive. We just need to win. Kellen's patterns flickered violently. You're insane. You'd throw your lives away? Reeve's voice softened. If it saves Earth, yeah. Kalen looked at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. Then I will help. I will show you the way to the Nexus. The humans exchanged looks. Trusting an alien who belonged to the Empire was dangerous. But they had no choice. Ortega, Reeve said, strap in. Quan, keep her together. Kalen, get us a path. The stolen ship dove toward the dreadnought, weaving through waves of fire. Alien fighters swarmed like hornets, but their patterns were too perfect. Reeve ordered sudden, erratic turn zigzags, corkscrews, even a backward stall that sent 3 fighters colliding into each other. Kalen shouted directions, guiding them toward a maintenance port near the dreadnought's underbelly. The stolen ship slammed into the docking ring with a bone-rattling crash. Metal screamed. Alarms howled. But they were inside ***. Grab everything you can carry, Reeve barked. We're not coming back. They armed themselves with alien rifles, packs of stolen tools, and Quan's improvised explosives. The airlock hissed open, revealing a corridor of pulsing silver veins. Inside the dreadnought, the air smelled sharp, like ozone and fire. This way, Kalen urged, leading them through. The labyrinth. The Nexus mind is at the core. The halls trembled with power. Alien soldiers swarmed from every side. The humans fought their way forward, each step a battle. Ortega fired in short bursts, cutting down enemies with brutal efficiency. Reeve charged ahead, his soldiers' instincts guiding every shot. Quan ducked behind cover, tossing improvised charges that sent corridors collapsing in showers of sparks. And Kalen fought his own people. His weapon trembled in his hands. But each time he fired, his patterns brightened. With every enemy he struck down, his shame faded, replaced by fierce determination. You're one of us now. Ortega shouted to him over the gunfire. Kellen's patterns flared bright blue. Then let us finish this together. Finally, they reached the Nexus chamber. It was vast, a cathedral of crystal and light. At its center floated a colossal sphere, glowing with swirling energy. The Nexus mind pulsed like a living heart, tendrils of light stretching into every wall, every system. Kellen's voice trembled. That is the core. Destroy it, and the judgment weapon dies. Reeve raised his rifle. Then let's end this. But before he could fire, a figure appeared. Asterisk, it was no soldier. It was one of the tribunal themselves, towering, draped in flowing crystal robes, eyes burning like stars. Their voice boomed across the chamber. Fools, you think to break the will of the Empire? You are insects gnawing at the feet of gods. They raised a hand. The nexus flared, and the humans were thrown back by a wave of pure energy. Quan slammed into a wall, coughing blood. Ortega's weapon shattered in his hands. Reeves staggered to his feet, vision swimming. The tribunal's voice thundered. Humanity will be erased. Your chaos will not infect eternity. The nexus glowed brighter, the judgment core nearing its final charge. Reeve forced himself upright, every muscle screaming. He looked at his crew, battered and bleeding. He looked at Kalen, trembling but unbroken, and he made his choice. Asterisk, Kalen, he said hoarsely. You know this system. Guide Quan to overload it. Ortega cover them. He raised his rifle at the tribunal. I'll keep this bastard busy. Kellen's patterns flared in shock. You can't fight them alone. Reeves smiled through blood. Watch me. He charged. Asterisk. The unimpressed ones. The chamber burned with light. The nexus mind pulsed brighter with every heartbeat. Threads of energy snaking into the dreadnought systems. Above it, the tribunal's crystalline form blazed with power, their voice echoing. Like thunder across the cathedral, your chaos dies here, human. Reeve braced himself, rifle steady despite the tremor in his hands. You'll have to earn it. The tribunal raised their arm, and a wave of raw force slammed into him. He was thrown across the chamber, ribs cracking, weapon clattering away. Pain exploded through his body, but he forced himself up, staggering, refusing to bow. Behind him, Quan and Kalen scrambled toward the nexus. Sparks showered as Quan ripped open a panel of glowing conduits. These veins power lines, she shouted. If I cross-wire the flow, it'll overload. Kellen's crystalline skin flared with panic. The backlash could kill you. Quan spat blood, grinning through broken teeth. Everything in here could kill us. Now shut up and help. Ortega dragged himself to cover, firing at soldiers, pouring into the chamber. Plasma blasts seared the air, the smell of burning crystal. Thick. I can't hold him much longer. He shouted. Reeve ignored the pain and dove for his fallen rifle. The tribunal advanced, light blazing from their body like a star about to go supernova. Why fight? The alien voice boomed. Your world will fall. Your kind will kneel, or they will burn. Reeve raised the rifle, meeting the tribunal's earning gaze. His voice was ragged, but steady. You don't know us. Humanity doesn't kneel. He fired. The blast struck the tribunal in the chest. It staggered them, but only for a heartbeat. They roared in fury, hurling another wave of force that shattered the floor at Reeve's feet. He was flung back, coughing blood, vision swimming. Still, he laughed through the pain. Not impressed. The tribunal's eyes blazed. Meanwhile, Quan and Kalen worked frantically. She jammed wires together, sparks arcing across her hands. Kalen tore at conduits with his bare fingers, crystalline skin cracking under the strain. The overload is building. Quan shouted. The nexus began to scream, a rising terrible sound, like the wail of a dying star. Kalen looked at her, voice breaking. If this collapses, the entire dreadnought will implode. Then we'd better not be here when it happens, Quan growled. Ortega cursed as his weapon clicked empty. Dan, we're out of time. Reeves staggered to his feet again. Every bone screaming. He met the tribunal's gaze one last time. You call yourselves gods, he rasped. "But you're just cowards hiding behind machines." The tribunal raised their hand, light swelling to a blinding storm dot, and Kalen acted. He tore the final conduit free with a cry. The nexus erupted, light shattering across the chamber. The Judgment Core's charge faltered, then reversed, collapsing. Inward in a chain reaction, the tribunal screamed, their body cracking like broken glass. The soldiers faltered, stumbling in panic. "Run!" Kwan screamed. The humans and Kalen sprinted for the docking corridor as the chamber tore itself apart. Walls split. Energy veins ruptured. The dreadnought howled like a dying beast. They threw themselves into their stolen ship, Kalen slamming his hands onto the controls. The engines roared to life. Behind them, the dreadnought's core collapsed. A star-bright implosion ripped through its body, tearing the colossal war machine apart. Shards of crystal and molten metal scattered across the void. The fleet reeled in shock. For the first time in centuries, a dreadnought had fallen, and it had fallen to humans. Inside the ship, silence reigned. Reeves slumped into his chair. Every breath agony. Ortega's armor was scorched. Kwan's hands were blistered and bloody. Callan's crystalline skin was cracked, glowing faintly. But they were a live dot. The comms flared with frantic voices from the fleet, disbelief echoing. The dreadnought destroyed? Impossible. How did they? Kalen looked at Reeve, voice soft with awe. "You did it. You defied them. You destroyed what we thought eternal." Reeve coughed, a weak grin tugging at his lips. "Told you." "We're not impressed." For a long moment, none of them spoke. They just stared at the stars, at the ruins drifting where a god machine once stood. Then Ortega broke the silence. "So, what now, Captain?" Reeve looked at his crew, his family, and at Kalen, the alien who had chosen to stand with them. His voice was quiet, but firm. "Now we go home. We warn Earth. The galaxy isn't empty. It's worse, it's full. But we'll face it like we always do, together." Kalen lowered his head. "The tribunal will not stop. They will come for you. For all of you." Reeve's eyes hardened. "Then let them. Humanity's faced empires before. Yours won't be the last." The ship turned, engines burning bright as it fled into the dark. Behind them, the shattered remains of the dreadnought floated like a tombstone, a silent warning to every eye that had witnessed the broadcast. Across the empire, whispers began. Whispers of chaos, of defiance, of humans. The tribunal had meant to show the galaxy humanity's destruction. Instead, they had shown its strength. And somewhere, deep in the void, Earth remained unimpressed. Epilogue on a distant world. A child watched the broadcast in secret. She saw the dreadnought fall, saw the humans fight and win. Her crystalline skin flickered with colors she didn't understand. "Mother," she whispered. "The humans, they were not afraid." And across the empire, seeds of rebellion began to stir. Because sometimes all it takes is one spark, one stubborn, defiant species, to remind the stars that empires are not eternal. Asterisk.